this week, the name on the marquee has got to be Amanda the Lioness Nunes, who this past weekend at the Rogers Arena in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, at UFC 289, defeated Irene Aldana by unanimous decision, defending once again her women's bantamweight title one last time, gentlemen, because right after this win, Amanda, she did the damn thing. She gets her gloves cut off. She takes her two belts, her bantamweight and featherweight belt. She lays them all down on the octagon mat. She kneels down. She makes out with all of them. She gets emotional. I got emotional. I'm sure you guys got emotional. But before we talk about her retirement, let's first talk about this fantastic performance. Mark, let me throw it over to you first. Give me your take and your reaction to yet another title win for Amanda Nunes.
I mean, talk about going out on top. You can't be much more dominant than she was in that fight. But really, there's not so much to say about that fight because only one girl showed up to have it. I mean, that was the worst Irene Aldana we've ever seen, and it's not even close. I don't know if she just froze or if her game plan backfired early and she just couldn't figure out how she wanted to adjust, or the stage was too big, or what. But I mean, she didn't even fight. She landed one nice shot in round one, and that was pretty much it. That was like the only check she could mark for herself. She had one nice punch in round one. Other than that, she was just kind of there. Like, she wasn't throwing. She was backing up. She was letting Amanda do whatever she wanted. I mean, and Amanda looked fantastic. She really did. She looked great in every single aspect of that fight. She was winning on the feet. Takedown was always there. If she wanted it early, she didn't even want it. Then she decided to go for it. She was dominant in the wrestling. I mean, again, she did whatever she wanted. There was not a lot of resistance coming back from the Irene Aldana side in that fight, unfortunately. So it wasn't terribly memorable for her last fight for Amanda. She kind of just put a beating on her, laid the belts down, put the gloves down, drank some beer, thanked her people, and went out on top. And I'm always happy to see fighters go out on top. You know, too many, as we know, are not capable of walking away when they're still winning. And yes, Amanda could still be champ for a couple more years, maybe even longer than that. Of course she could. She's still the class of 135 and very certainly the class of 145.
Yeah.
But she's done basically all there is to do. And if she is content with what she's accomplished and wants to go ahead and be a mom and enjoy her life and not have to diet and not have to train and all that, I mean, I'm sure she'll still train, but you know what I mean, then good for her. And I'm happy to see her move on to the next stage of her life.
Omar, the scores read 50-44, 50-44, and 50-43. So two of the judges had one of the rounds as a 10-8, and one judge, I believe, had two rounds as 10-8s. A reflection of the dominance of Amanda Nunes, but also a reflection of, as Mark was alluding to, how Irene Aldana came with I guess, a strange game plan. What did you make of Irene Aldana's game plan and the fight, how it played out?
That wasn't a game plan. Whatever the game plan was, that's not a game plan. She didn't do anything. She stood there with her hands up, had a little bit of movement every now and again, threw a couple pot shots every now and again. Every time she threw one, Amanda made her eat shit. And that was pretty much the story for the entire fight. And I think the worst part about it was Amanda Nunes was able to make that experience exponentially worse with each round. So the first round was a nice little back and forth, right? Trying to get a little feeling out process. And Irene kind of, has a moment there. So we're like, okay, it's a little on the slow side here. Maybe Irene just kind of needs a minute to warm up, get her groove, get her timing or whatever. Second round, that doesn't happen. Takedowns start getting involved, right? We start worrying about the ground game. And, Irene gets dropped to the ground. She gets right back up. And, again, some more questions about how she was going to deal with the takedown stuff are not necessarily answered, but we start getting glimpses of it. And so it's like, okay, she still doesn't seem comfortable in there, but maybe she'll start going there. And then she didn't. And she just didn't. She at no point looked like she knew what she was doing in that fight, specifically in that fight. She had no answer. She was getting worked. Every time she tried to go for something, Amanda had a lot more activity and a lot more answers. Leg kicks were being thrown while Irene was trying to go for the head. While Irene thought that they were going to be low kicks, she was getting cracked in the face. It was not a great night for Irene. I don't subscribe to the 50-43 personally. I don't think that fourth round was a 10-8 round. The fifth round, I will concede. I can see definitely 10-8 round. I had it as a 10-8 round myself. So 50-44 I thought was the proper decision. Either way, I mean, we're splitting hairs at this point, so it really doesn't fucking matter. But it was a beyond dominant performance from Amanda Nunes. But at the same time, you know, it sucks to watch those performances because it's really, you know, as somebody who might have been a super big Amanda Nunes fan and a super big stan, that must have been a great performance to watch from beginning to end. But as somebody who's, you know, just in this specific case, I don't really have a lot of the kind of fandom as I would for some of the other people in the sport. And so at the end of the day, I just really love watching fighting, and I love watching competitiveness, and I love watching the you know, to see these fighters kind of give it their all. And I don't think we got that from Irene Aldana. So it was hard for me to fully enjoy this fight as much as I thought I was going to, at least from a competitive perspective. Hopefully she learns from this. Hopefully that never happens again in her career. But like Mark said, something must have happened to her at this point. Something that we, you know, either don't know about. We definitely don't know about it. But something either that happened in the moment, something that was already leading up to that moment. Who knows? But it was sad. It was sad to watch Irene let a moment like that just slip away. But it was great for Amanda to see her kind of go out on top.
I really think she did freeze. Like, if you make me guess, I really think it was just didn't show up.
Yeah,
I feel
you
like
could see the end of the fight at the very end of the fight when she goes when the bell rings, Amanda gets off of her. You could see it. You could see it in her face, the I fucked up face. Like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah,
and so it sucks.
I feel like her game plan was to be patient overall, and then it just kind of got away from her. And then there seemed to be a little bit of deer in the headlights kind of thing. I mean, in between rounds, her corner was kind of imploring her, like, you got to engage more. We need more volume. We need more action.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But look, when you're standing across from Amanda Nunes, it's like, it makes me think of that Mike Perry interview where he's like complaining about when his corner is like, go, Mike, go, go. And he's like, you go.
You gotta go, Mike. You gotta go.
I'm not trying to get hit. Yeah.
Screw you. You go. I'm not trying to get hit right now.
Exactly.
I love that interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what can happen. You almost, it's hard to intentionally come with a patient game plan against fighters on the elite level, because you run the risk of, you're like, I'm going to be patient here and not really push much. And then you're like, holy fuck, they're so good. And it's already been however many minutes. And you're like, how do I change this fight now? Instead of coming out of the gate differently. Like, it's a tough
There's
way to fight.
There's also certain fighters where I feel like you could play that little bit of a game plan, right? Where you can be a little bit more patient than others. But when Amanda Nunes is literally pushing forward for the entire fight and is landing shit on you for the entire fight, at what round are you like, damn, this isn't working? Maybe I should try something else. Or especially by that fifth round, like, there's hematomas all over the place. Aldana was completely messed up by the time that fifth round came. But when do you go for broke? And now, to be granted, Amanda Nunes ended up taking her down in the fifth round and completely killing her for the rest of that round and not even giving Aldana a chance at that point to do anything, which, to her credit, was probably the right way to go, because that was Aldana needed a finish, obviously, by that fifth round. That was doing something stupid was the only way that Aldana was going to win in that fight at that point. So, you know, credit to Amanda for recognizing that, taking advantage of it, especially if Aldana can't do anything to get off the ground. So it was just frustrating all the way around. It really was. I thought it would be way more competitive than that.
Before we shift gears and talk about Amanda Nunes' retirement, is there anything that we want to say about what could be next for Irene Aldana in terms of her next opponent at 135 pounds? Because we have plenty of show to get through.
It's pretty hard to match her up because she has actually fought, like, nearly every single girl around her in these rankings. So I kind of settled on her fighting Mayra Bueno Silva, who is
Okay.
matched up with Holly Holm, regardless of what happens in that fight. Like, if Holm turns her back, I feel like you can be like, all right, they both lost, match them up. If she gets past Holm, I feel like you can still be like, well, Aldana just fought for the title, match them up. Like, I don't know who else you'd go to. She's fought all these other girls.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it was for me, just to give it a little bit of, I guess, different shade to it, I would even think a Misha Tate fight would be interesting as well. Misha Tate hasn't necessarily been doing fantastic. I don't necessarily want to give another wrestler to Aldana, but at the same time, just based off of recent performances, I think Misha Tate probably brings a level of wrestling that she could deal with. So I think it'd be interesting.
That is fair. I kind of forgot Misha Tate existed, to be honest. Is Misha
Be a
Tate
good
not
fight.
booked? I feel like she hasn't fought in ages. Yeah, she's not booked. Wow. It's been a long time. Oh,
And I
she
think
was
she's
supposed
going
she
back
must have got
up.
hurt. Because she was
She's
supposed to
going-
fight Mayor Bueno Silva, now that I think about it. And Holly
I think
stepped
you're
in
right.
for her. So she
Yeah, I
must
think
be
you're
hurt.
right.
Yeah.
But she did go back up to 135, so that 125 experiment,
Right,
I think,
right.
is over.
Yes. And then as for the belt, you got to think we're going to see Raquel and Juliana Pena.
Juliana, yeah.
I don't know where else you go. It feels like it has to be those two.
No, you go nowhere else. That's where you go. That's 100% where you go.
Yeah, I agree. And they haven't fought.
Right. And it's a great fight, if we're being completely honest. I think it's a fantastic fight.
For sure. And they both deserve it. You really, I mean, we're saying the same thing over and over, but
Yes.
you can't push anyone else. It's got to be them. Yeah.
Also, RIP to the featherweight division. Norma Dumont, you're always going to be my champ.
Told you. The walking papers are
And-
coming any minute.
That's that. Norma Dumont's like, fuck, do I got to cut to 135 again now? Is that what the hell's going to have to happen? Maybe she goes to PFL.
Before you know it.
Maybe she goes to
Or
PFL.
PFL.
If they cut her from 145, go to PFL. And look, if Kayla misses out on a another season here, Norma Dumont might just punch her ticket to $1 million. You never know.
She ain't being Pacheco.
Yeah, right. I listen. We can dream. We can dream.
Okay, let's talk about. I mean, dude, we could have a whole show about Amanda Nunes' career, but we have quite a bit of show to still get through. So we have to say something. What do you guys want to say about the legacy of Amanda Nunes?
Yeah, I won't say much. We did. If you want to hear more in depth, our thoughts on Amanda Nunes. I don't know why my mind wants to say Nunes, even though it's not. I don't know what's wrong with me. Nunes. We recently have been doing some all-time ranking shows on here. If you have not caught them, or segments, I should say, we did a flyweight all-time ranks. We did a bantamweight all-time ranks, and our first one that we did was a overall women's all-time ranks. So those three are up right now on our specials section on YouTube. But if you want to hear more on Amanda, go there because we talked about her career in depth there. Of course, she was our number one all-time women's fighter for all three of us. But yeah, I mean, the resume speaks for itself. She has beaten everyone who is on the list of arguable greats. I know she had that loss to Pena at the end here, but she came right back and avenged that in a dominant performance. I mean, the girl is so clearly the GOAT of women's MMA that it's not really worth a conversation. But I'll stop there because, as you said, we do have a shitload to get to in this episode.
It's true.
Yeah, man. I mean, she's definitely, to me, the most accomplished women's MMA fighter at this point. Definitely the one with the best resume. The one I think who's going to go down in history as the one I think with the most, I guess, significant wins, right? Over big names, over people of value, across organizations. The win against Chris Cyborg, I think, set her way over the top. You think even more so than the Ronda Rousey one. I think we had gotten to a point with Ronda that we kind of almost expected that, but the Chris Cyborg one, we didn't really know what the hell was going to happen with that one. We just knew somebody was going to die. And
True.
the fact that she was able to wreck Cyborg the way that she was able to do it, I mean, that sent her on a different level, I think, at that point. And she was able to maintain. Some of her later performances, depending on which ones you go through, might have been, a little bit a little bit more lackluster than others. She wasn't always laying people face down, ass up on the canvas, but she was dominant, and she wasn't the type of fighter that was generally getting run over or getting abused or having really super close decisions with a lot of folks. For the most part, she was very, very dominant in her career. Like we talked about, the Juliana Pena performance wasn't great. She said there was, that was a hiccup and that wasn't normal. And the second Juliana Pena fight, she made it seem like that was indeed the case. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that second fight. She beat the crap out of Juliana Pena in that fight. So she's had an amazing career, amazing story, amazing life. Obviously, if you follow the sport long enough and close enough, you know that her wife is another UFC fighter as well, who obviously took a little bit of time off to grow and give birth to the children's. I believe they are pregnant again with their second one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, correct.
So it's a beautiful story for sure. I think she will definitely be missed. But I think with her exit, it makes the bantamweight division very, very, very interesting and really up for grabs at this point. So I'm excited to see what happens going forward, and I'm happy that Nunes had the career that she did.
And what a career was that? Yeah, she's a GOAT, at least for now. Until Norma Dumont catches up to her.
Hey, let's go, baby.